Hey guys, so when you're working in the art industry, you're gonna run into all kinds of issues. These issues all depend on what job and what role you'll be playing in the project. This is just one of those stories that have made me laugh in retrospect. I'll be doing a drawing to keep you entertained while you listen to this story. But first, you should understand one thing. The first rule and most important rule: the client or customer is always right. There's no point arguing that. At the end of the day, they're the ones paying for your work. You are making a product for them. Your art is a product they are purchasing. All you can do is your best and advise based on your knowledge and your ability to execute the work. They are paying for your abilities and your talent, and in exchange, you're getting a payment that you have both agreed upon. It's usually preceded with a contract signed and agreed by both parties. Writing out a contract is a smart idea, and it can be very simple. Or it can be written in lawyer lingo where every issue is ironed out and outlined. Ultimately, it is up to you, the artist, to be aware and practice common sense. This contract should protect both the client and the artist. After all this is ironed out, the work proceeds. Depending on what kind of work you'll be doing, the contract or the agreement will be different. I personally draft different ones for animation, for illustration, for designs, or they provide me one, which I read, and if there are changes to be made, I will address that. And after I sign the contract and they sign the contract, the work begins. When you're doing work for yourself, your personal work, you're the boss. You're accountable only to you. You don't answer to anyone but you. But when you're doing work for somebody else, you're the worker bee. You're the employee. Sure, you have an input and you should give advice and directions, but at the end of the day, it is a transaction. You are not the boss there. You have the option of not taking the job or the work if you strongly disagree with the message or feel very negative about the project. But if you choose to take it on, then you are agreeing to take on the work. You are the hand that makes the product. You are not the ultimate decision maker. Now, going back to the story. So this story is about a problem that kept coming up. I'll call it the eyelash incident. So a producer reached out to me for a short animation project. I was to provide direction, character designs, and animation. It was a 3-week-long project with a small budget. I'll not mention real names or clients, as I believe private matters are private, but the story illustrates issues that come up during this kind of work. The client was not just one person with a want or a vision. It was a committee of several people, all having their own wants and thoughts. This made that project so much more difficult to execute. The animation consisted of many characters participating in several activities. For example, dancing, running, skating. I did the designs, and after a few rounds of revisions and color, clothing options, the client liked them and the designs were approved. With that out of the way, I proceeded to storyboard the treatment they provided me and time out the storyboards and beats that told the story they wanted. Many issues came up and quickly discussed and dismissed or corrected, finally arriving at a working animatic they were very happy with. I continued with the animation process, doing some rough animation that they liked, then proceeded to do cleanup animation and getting it ready for color. There was one issue where the conversation just stalled and it kept coming up again and again during the process of animation. The eyelashes. The eyelashes. They would say things such as, "We don't think she has enough eyelashes. They should be fuller. They should be darker. They should be curvier. They should be longer," etc., etc. This went on for a long time, over several days. We went back and forth many times. I was trying to explain that those eyelashes would not even be seen as the action was broad and that detail would not be even noticed. Eyelashes, eyelashes, eyelashes. This problem was ultimately resolved by having a conversation with my producer and having the producer present a proposal for the additional budget required to implement the eyelash changes. The client ended up needing time to think about it further. I continued my work, keeping up with the contracted schedule. I was concerned they would actually approve the proposal, as it would change the schedule agreed on and would create more work for me, but ultimately would not make any significant impact on the viewer seeing the work. I wanted them to understand that it was not going to make much of a difference at all. It's just going to cost a lot of money. I always stick to rule number 1. The customer is always right, and I would do the changes if that was their desire. I'd have no issue with that. When I'm doing work for somebody else, my goal is to make them happy, to be satisfied with what they get, to give them my best work, to advise them. They can take that advice or not. Ultimately, it's up to them. After a few days, they notified my producer that they thought about it and decided the additional eyelashes were unnecessary. and to continue on schedule. The work was finished, delivered on schedule, on time. The client was extremely happy. Everyone was paid. Another successful project completed. Everyone was satisfied and thanks were shared. On to the next project. If you remember nothing about the story, just remember this rule. The client or customer is always right. It will serve you well if you choose to have a career in art or animation.